Peace, Farmer Courtney here. So a little bit of a different location. I'm actually by a river that I used to come to all the time when I first began this journey of divine isolation, right? So where I write from and do these videos from, it's been on this journey of living a really isolated life. I've touched on this before about what people experienced during the pandemic of suddenly one thing after the other, like being lopped off of their support system and things that they relied on, and outside of some sort of tragic impact, just like regularly, right? The things that and that's still getting away pretty easy in the scope of things during the pandemic. But that was not something I was really prepared for when I first moved to the country, right? I was thinking, we moved to the country, we bought 20 acres, so I was thinking like, oh, okay, we'll sell off small amounts and we'll build with other people and we'll have a community, and and that probably could have worked if I hadn't been so disagreeable and insisted on studying something that caused a lot of separation between relationships and people and minds that I was connected with, because through that span of growth, a lot of people just weren't vibing with that. They weren't connecting with that. And so I went through this period of not really understanding, the Jonah Decade, I call it, of just, once I finally had enough time to study and get a deep enough idea, then I realized that that I had a job to do. But then I went through this whole Jonah Decade of and sort of on the tip of no, I don't think it's me that has to do this specific thing, because I'm not not qualified, not able to do that. I don't speak well. I really piss people off when I bring these things up. I'm really not the person, right? Like an orator or somebody that speaks well would be much better to be the one to say these things, and somebody that just had some level of education that was a little bit better at talking and speaking and debating, and they would be better. Somebody that didn't have children, somebody that didn't live so isolated, it would be better, right? I had all these excuses for a decade, and then caused a lot of hell in my life because of it, and hurt a lot of people not being fully alive, right? Not living fully. So because I accepted all these conditions that people, not God, put on my life, limitations, so not restrictive laws to protect and grow and shape, but outside restrictions, things that I just wasn't healthy enough, I think, to square all of that, to view the situation properly. So then I was kind of on half beam, not really alive for anyone. And then it was a frustration for many people, I think, who knew me, because then it was how come you can't be different? And I'm but I am who I am. Thank God I am, right? I didn't have that vibe. And I felt yeah, you're right. There must be something wrong with me. And I tried to change, and I did change in ways that were character ways. I was able to change in those ways, but as far as how my mind works and stuff, I wasn't able to change that. And I always just felt I was unacceptable, and there was something wrong. And actually, what was unacceptable was that I was agreeing to live a half-dead life and just be half of who I am. And especially in a world like this where pretty much anything goes, and not only do we have to tolerate, but it is really aggressively pushed on us through these different agendas that we just have to accept every old thing that defies reason or whatever. And then I just started realizing I feel I'm at the end of life. If I don't actually take up life with gusto and be who I am and open my mouth and start teaching. And again, I was teaching about food, right? I was thinking well, I can get out there and teach about food. And then they banned the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan from being on Instagram, and as soon as I said that word, I'm it's actually, they just removed his accounts, right? Those of us who take clips and repost, we're able to. It was just an act of energetic warfare, right? But it really affected me, because I used to really tap into that. That was my light line every day. I loved tapping into the minister's account on Instagram. Yes, you may go up. I'll follow you. I love tapping into that account. And I was in such a precarious situation in my life in that moment. And I was so righteously angered by that for the first time, you know, I did know how to use my little iPhone 4 because I have been studying online marketing to do storytelling for the farm and to try to market the farm. And so I did know how to use my little iPhone 4, and so I just thought, okay, I'm gonna make this video on Instagram and just say whatever I want to say, because this is my last day if I don't. Like, I really genuinely felt like that. I just felt like this is the moment that you need to say something. And it's funny that my hair looks like this right now because it's been a challenging week, you know. It's like I've been really kind of like out of sorts in a good way, right? Because I see the unfolding. But anyway, my hair was done the exact same way. And as I was coming here, I realized, like, oh, I left my hat in the car because it was like just hot, and I felt like it was shady where we are. And the hat, I grabbed the wrong hat, and it was fitting awfully. I didn't like it. I have like 2 farming baseball hats, and it fit awful. I know this is like completely random, but anyway, I just thought, like, oh, I can't make a video looking like this. And then I realized, like, I have a lot more like vibrancy from the time of year that it is, right? Like, I have like the blessing of the amazing weather that we've been having in central New York, and just like the bliss of coming alive again in the spring. And this is what my hair looked like, right? Like, I hadn't even looked in the mirror that morning. I mean, I looked in the camera, I saw what I looked like in the camera, and I really didn't care, because I was just in a place where I didn't, you know, it was like, you know, we had mirrors in the bathroom, but I've never been somebody that like really looks in the mirror a whole lot, because we're always just working, like, yeah. So anyway, that morning I had been up early, you know, saying prayers and getting the children's lunches and getting everybody off to school. And the twins were still sleeping after the older kids went to school, and I just hit record. And those were like one shot. I might have done the first one, I think, you know, I started over like once, but then I just spoke, and I just spoke in a way that I just wanted to say what had to be said about all of the slander and misrepresentation that goes on about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because my gift, I've come to realize through the work and the assistance of Brother Ben X's digital real estate program and everybody that he has assembled on that team, I've come to realize is risk assessment. And I've also come to recognize that it's okay to live as me and to do what is on my heart to do and share and create content about, but especially the gift, right? So in that moment when they removed the minister's accounts from Facebook and Instagram, I'm somebody that has been involved in, you know, the natural foods movement, right? I wasn't like part of an organization, but I moved in my heart to remove, you know, like processed foods and pesticides and all that from my life. I worked in a health food store, and then we started this farm, had been running this farm for 18 years, or the farm had been running us, however I always felt like I was in a polygamous marriage, that the farm was the primary wife and that I was the second wife. But anyway, the farm had been running us, or we had been running the farm, really committing. So even if we only look at the one issue of food, how much disease and pollution and like all of these very, very huge issues, even if we just looked at that one issue, and the weather and all of that, like, we are in a very precarious position, humanity is, and most people don't necessarily want to hear this. And so when I made that video this morning, looking kind of like right now, I think, yeah, I'm definitely just like out in nature, looking how I look rough and on the side of the creek. But anyway, I didn't care, because I was really just like, why doesn't anybody get it? doesn't this have such dramatic implications? Like, I tend to see like visuals of prophetic teachings, not that I'm having the prophetic teaching, but that like when I hear someone narrating something, that I can see it in my mind, and I remember it, and it becomes like a vivid, thing that lives inside of me and informs my thinking. I think because the risk thing is so strong to me that, there's always been kind of like fire and brimstone teachings, right, that are like very trivialized, because in a world like this where we're doing every possible thing to mock God and his authority and his creation, and just any form of that, there is something, like a structure, the restrictive structure that is for our benefit, that we should be living under God's law, that, you would think that it's all made up, right? Because if many of us grew up with the influence of Christianity, and in this country of the US where I live, that gives like lip service to God and to all these things, but then culturally it's like, what else could you possibly do to act out? So what's going to happen? Do you think that God is not real, like that we aren't going to get the judgment that was due to us? And the thing is, this is me, but most people don't know what they don't know, right? So if it hadn't happened that I'm randomly in the places and spaces that I never would have heard this, the teachings of the Nation of Islam. It just wouldn't have happened. I'm sitting here at this river where I used to hang out with all my hippie farmer friends. I never fit in. I was always like an observant outsider. I would observe them in their friendships, who they really had like caring, loving, attentive friendships to each other, deepness that I just knew that I didn't connect like that. I wasn't going to connect with that, because if I had any of those connections, I wouldn't have been able to carry on and do what I'm doing. So I've been having this kind of introspective moment here at the creek, because those types of people who like really did a ton of self-healing and all these different things, working in their personal relationships, who were living super simple on farms, literally farming, plowing with horses, living simple lives, like doing all these things, like just the nicest salt of the earth people that you would ever meet. When I would speak, it would be like total dissonance and people just getting really uncomfortable, and because it was so separated from what our reality was. And so there's been something that's never let me be really like comfortable in my life, and so I see that as a blessing. I mean, I have moments of joy and comfort and blessing and all of these things, but there's always this dissatisfaction and this whispering of that responsibility, that I need to act and I need to do something. So anyway, I thought it was fitting that I needed to make day 10. So today's day 10 of just some storytelling in honor of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and his 67 years of service to the Nation of Islam. On his 89th birthday, I was going to put up a post, and then I got a prompting that you're not going to get off that easy. You need to do 67 consistent posts and get on with what you're supposed to be doing. So that's what these videos are, part of my YouTube channel, with the imperfect thumbnails and everything, working to be more polished content. But for now, this is just walking in obedience and building those things. So I'm gonna go track. My daughters have walked on in the creek, and it's time for me to move on. But thank you for joining me. If you found this video useful, interesting, helpful in any way, hit the like button, subscribe button, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.